All right, so Juan and I better head out for a little walk. We've been locked up inside this apartment all day, and we're gonna try to get some dessert or Sonic, man. Give me Sonic. Then we're gonna go ahead and come back and show you guys how we're able to raise $50,000 in capital for our e-commerce brand in order to scale them up to the next level. Okay, if you ever try to scale a business, bootstrapping it all the way, it's pretty difficult, okay? You should be using other people's money to scale your e-commerce brands, all right? See, sometimes I'd be waking up in the morning and I'm like a horny little bastard, and I just thought, you know, because I realized nighttime, right? If I'm creeping late night, the odds are stacked against me. But if I'm creeping in the morning, I'm still creeping, but it looks like I'm an early bird. The early bird gets the worm first. That's the mentality, my God. Now, is it working? Not really. I'm more of an on-site kind of guy. You know what I'm saying?
I believe you.
I'm a shooter on site.
Of course.
The only thing I have in this world is what?
All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Do you understand?
I was just telling Juan though, I'm starting this new thing where I just kind of walk into stores with no mask and just wait till anybody says anything before I put it on. Oh, you apply that pressure. Juan and I just walked in here, no mask. Shorty at the front did not say a word. All right, just act casual. Don't breathe.
Who can afford to make eggs, dude?
Look, they got shroom powder here at Home Goods. And I are browsing in Home Goods. No masks. Still, nobody said a word. The final test is you gotta ask an employee for his help.
No.
If they do not say anything, we're good.
Hey, excuse me, you guys know where's the like the little bit of a higher bedside tables?
No, man. All of those would be over there. That's the only one we have. Dude.
Okay, thank you so much.
Front with that shirt, man.
Oh, thank you so much, bro. Alright, ladies, we have confirmed coronavirus is over. Coronavirus is done. It's done. Don't need to wear a mask anymore. Hold on, Mo made that call right here.
You know what I mean?
Mo, let me see that one more time. Show him that chart. Boom.
You know what I'm saying? A very new idea, very new.
Boom. Oh shit.
Exponential growth, right?
We might have ourselves a fucking banger, my guy.
You know what I'm saying? Just another idea here.
All right, we are back from our little stroll there, back at the spot. All right, so as promised, we wanted to share with you guys how we're able to raise capital, raise funding for our e-commerce brands, okay? Now, all I know is that from the beginning of our e-commerce journey, we didn't have much cash to be investing, okay? So ideally, when we started our e-commerce brands or when we started our e-commerce business, we literally were putting ad spend on Juan's credit card. Now, there's a difference between good debt and bad debt. That's what we're gonna be talking about a little bit here. But obviously, when you're investing in a business, into marketing for your business or product inventory into your business, then you know that's good debt because you're going to be able to sell those products, make a return, and you know obviously pay off that debt. But bad debt, okay, bad debt is buying things like cars or a bunch of clothes on your credit card or putting a bunch of just things that don't make you any type of money. Now we're at a point where, you know, in the beginning it was only a few $100, a few thousand, but now we're able to raise tens of thousands of dollars just like that, literally without having to do much, because once our e-commerce brands start selling, once our e-commerce brands start bringing in money, there are banks out there that are more than happy to obviously fund your business because that's how they make money. Okay, the way a bank makes money is by giving the money to somebody who knows what they're gonna do with it, who has a proven system to make more money with it, because they know that for a fact you're gonna pay them back and a few points on top. So I want to go ahead and turn it over to you, Juan, here. Honestly, he's been the one staying on top of the financing, raising capital for our e-commerce brand. Now, what's that process been like, bro?
It's been an interesting process, honestly. You know, one of the things that I've started to learn, or that I've been learning more about, is you know, really the process and the importance of being able to, you know, access capital or funding for, you know, your business. Bootstrap in the space that we're in the e-commerce space, it is not entirely easy to be able to completely bootstrap a business unless you just have a lot of cash in the bank.
Yeah.
Right.
And like most people watching this video, probably not the case. So
yeah. So unless you have like a lot of cash in the bank and you're not working on anything else, and that's your main thing, and you're down to go all in, then, you know, then obviously it's different. But for most people, that's not the case. So for most people out there, just, you know, people just like us, what you want to do is, you know, understand where you are with your business and where you want to take it. Obviously, we had this conversation a few times. We knew that we obviously wanted to take our business to the next level. We didn't want to just stay, you know, and maintain a little mom and pop shop, right? And so usually, what, you know, when it comes to scaling and growing, that usually involves needing to get some kind of financing or capital. That's completely normal. That's how
all businesses, real estate,
run, right?
I mean, you name it.
It's really hard to grow and scale, you know, without having any additional capital to help,
or only reinvesting your profits like we've been doing so far, right?
Because there's obviously you can always continue to grow without any third-party funding or capital by just reinvesting your profits. That's fine. It just delays the process that it takes you to grow, right? And so some of the things that we calculate and we kind of decide on is like, do we want to take a year to get this kind of growth, or do we want to go after additional funding or capital that we can use now and grow quicker and simply, you know, pay some type of fee for that, right?
Yeah.
Pay instead of having to wait a year, get it done a lot quicker. So what I've spent a lot of time doing is, you know, just reaching out and looking for what kind of funding options we have available. And now what's happening is that the economy and just banks, they're seeing that there's obviously a huge shift happening from a lot of like brick and mortar retailers to online retailers. So one, what I'm seeing is that there's a big trend towards like banks and like lenders that are very lenient towards working with e-commerce businesses, because they understand that that's where things are going to, right? A lot of things are going online, so they're willing to take risks and bets on businesses that are selling online. So for us, obviously, we primarily focus on building online e-commerce brands, and so you know, we've had a few different options to actually you know, work with. There's a lot of different banks and like lenders you can actually reach out to if you have an e-commerce business. Well, if you have any business, there's banks and lenders you can reach out to. But if you have specifically an online business, there are some pretty cool ones. There's you know, there's Shopify. If you guys know, I mean, you can probably follow us for some time, or maybe if you're new here, Shopify is the main platform that we use to host our e-commerce brands on, right? It's what we use for the back end, website, all that good stuff. But Shopify also has a funding and capital arm that I think it's fairly new. I think it's probably only been around for like maybe a year or two, if that. And basically what they do is that they have a look at, you know, your store, your revenue, and how things have been for you since you've been open. Usually they look for some history, like 3 to 6 months minimum. But basically, if they see that you've been consistently growing and you've been consistently selling, fulfilling orders on time, then they actually make you an offer right on your store. There's literally a section that says capital and or capital or funding, one of those two. I think it's capital. You can go on there, you can literally see funding options that are available based on how much revenue you've already generated up to date. Yeah. And so they're not the only one, but they're one of the easiest ones to you know, kind of consider, because it's literally directly on your Shopify store. So I think it's pretty cool to explore your options when, you know, you're running an e-commerce business, especially because, again, like, for example, for us, we're getting ready to gear up for Q4, which is the busiest time of the year. And we want to make sure, we've already ran into instances where we haven't been able to keep up with the demand, right? This whole pandemic has actually caused us to run into multiple times where we run out of product, and so we're not able to actually keep up with the orders that are actually coming in. Yeah. And so the reason why that happened is because, you know, previous to this, right? This brand in particular was more of like in the startup phase, so we were bootstrapping all of it. Which nothing wrong with obviously starting off a brand that way. That's what we
they actually respect that more, right? Because when one of these funding or these capital or any bank really, we could just call them banks. The main thing they want to look, kind of like Shark Tank, right? When you're looking at Shark Tank, like who do they respect the most? The person who has tons of debt and raised a bunch of money already and still struggling, or the people that have been bootstrapping, making it work, scaling little by little, optimizing for, you know, good bottom line profits? Because then once you approach an investor, I mean, that's going to be the next step we're going to go for. But make sure you guys stay tuned for that. If you want to learn more, subscribe, right? Leave a comment, thumbs up. But you know, when we approach these whether it be an investor or a bank, they're going to want to see somebody that doesn't have too much bad debt, that's for sure. They want to make sure that your business model is working and you put some sweat equity, some of your own, you've invested it into it yourself. You put your money where your mouth is. So then when it comes time to approaching these banks, they're gonna say, hey, you guys are really in it to win it, right? So let me ask you this, what's been the biggest learning lesson? I know one, but I'll let you lead. What's been the biggest learning lesson after, you know, calling so many different banks? It's a process, right? That's for sure. It's a whole process. You got to know what to say, what you got to do, which banks to reach out to, because there's going to be some that are going to try to get you for 40 points, right? They're trying to get you for 40% interest, 30% interest, like with no shame. That's pretty much bending you over, raw dog.
Yeah.
Pause. Yeah. That's literally, they're trying to bend you over and fuck you pretty much, because 40% is ridiculous. And we've gotten one of those loans before, and what did it end up doing is really was a pain. It was hard to justify after the fact, after you spend the money, that damn, because that was when we didn't know any better. We didn't really know how to calculate for that or whatever. So what's been the biggest learning lesson for you, just kind of calling up all these different banks, trying to figure out what to say, how to do it, how to go about it?
Yeah, I would say there's been a few learning lessons. One of the first ones is to always shop around, and it is going to be like a long and tedious process, but take the time to actually, you know, reach out to a few different places, right, to see what kind of offers you can get, so you can compare and contrast. Because what that's going to do is it's obviously going to allow you to play around with some numbers, right? Have options to consider, which is great, right? You want to have options. And two, it's also going to allow you to, to negotiate, right? Because exactly. If usually what happens is that when you have, when you're going around getting these offers, you know, you may not like the terms or the percentages or the interest that a certain lender or bank may have, but you may want to negotiate with them. But usually what a lot of them require is that if you want to come back and negotiate, they usually require to see like some kind of proof, like that you actually have any of their offers, because if they know that they're the only offer available, they're not going to negotiate, you know. So one of the learning lessons for sure is going to be to always make sure to shop around and get multiple different offers, so that you can negotiate banks or lenders against each other. That's huge. Yeah. The second thing is that I would once you find one that like a bank or a lender that you end up working with, you want to make sure to really build that relationship and figure out, you know, what the possibilities are with that bank or that lender, right? Because there's a lot of these banks and these lenders where, like, you know, you can go to them once and they, you know, they'll do you really good, but after you work with them once, they don't really have much potential for growth, right? Yeah. Like it's hard to continue to work with them, or it may not be a good experience working with them, etc. So that's one end of the spectrum. But there's also other banks and lenders that you can work with that can actually be long-term partners that can actually help you, and they can actually have pretty cool structures where after you show them that you have good payment history and you have consistency, they can actually even lend you more money, more cash advances. And so ideally what you want to do is, again, make sure you shop, just to kind of summarize, shop around always, so that you have more negotiating
I like
power.
how you're using that term, shop around, because you're literally buying money. right? A big shift we had to make is to understand that you can buy money too at 2 to 3% interest or whatever, 4 to 6%. It seems to be like some of the average that we've been, tapping into. But yeah, I like that term, shop around.
Yeah, you want to, because otherwise, if you don't shop around, you don't know what's out there. There's no way to find out. And so again, it's a process that takes time. Like, it takes me a lot of time to kind of go through call by call, email by email, providing the same pieces of information, documents that are required to get offers, etc. But it ends up being worth it.
Yeah.
And then the second thing again is to really learn about who you're working with and try to build a relationship, because you could end up finding a bank or a lender that can be, more of a long-term player for you and can really help you in your business. We've seen that firsthand, and I think those two things will really take you a long way, because banks want to find people that they can work with consistently. Banks want to find people that have trustworthy, have good payment history that they can trust, because once they see that, well, it's a lot easier for them to go back and give you more money. So essentially you want to do that, because you never know what other business venture or if the same business just ends up really blowing up and you need more cash advance or a loan, whatever the case may be, to fuel your business. So
to build off of that point right there, I think for the point that I was gonna add on was you want to start reaching out and asking for money when you don't need it, right? Mm-hmm. Because one of the biggest mistakes we made is we often wait till the point where we need to place that bigger order, where we need to pay something off to make that call, and then they got you cornered, right? So that's where you get into a situation where somebody's like, we got you, this much for 40% interest, and you're like, you're not able to shop around because you need it right away. Your back's against the corner, you need to pay that bill, or otherwise you're gonna have to close your door. So you kind of pull on it, and it ends up being what's the term that we use sometimes is the sunk cost fallacy. So it's like you're able to pay off this bill, but then you got to pay 40 points on this loan. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of just digging a deeper hole for yourself at that point. And I'm sure everybody out there kind of experiences it, or anybody that's really getting started with raising capital and whatnot. But the point I'm trying to make is you want to start shopping around, like Juan said, start calling around, start comparing and contrasting when you don't need the money, okay? Because banks will know that, hey, if you need it, it means that your back is against the wall and it's an emergency, and you're probably just trying to dig yourself out of a hole, and they're not trying to help you really solve your problems. They're trying to help you invest, right? So if you call the bank and you say, hey, look, we got the holiday season coming up, and we need to increase our inventory, we've been running out of supply, can't keep up with demand, they're like, oh, it's gonna be an easy 4 or 5 points that we're about to make. How much do you need? But if you call them, hey, we need to pay this bill like tomorrow or else we're closing our doors, they're like, sorry, you sound desperate. So that's I would say that's the biggest learning lesson we've had. Now, the one thing I want to say is Juan is actually open to helping a few guys out with this process, with raising capital, raising funding for your e-commerce business. Of course, you can go out there and start calling all different kinds of banks and researching and all that good stuff. But obviously, with his help, I'm telling you guys, with his help, with his guidance, not only is he gonna help you get your paperwork straight, right? Because like he said, you need to get your paperwork straight before you give him a call. You need to clarify why you need that money, right? And we need to make sure that you're set up in a position, whether it be good credit or you have some trade lines, or all these different things that you could put in place to guarantee you get access to that money for low interest. Okay, that's the key. Anybody can get anybody can either get a loan for 40, 50,000, but it's a whole lot different when you get a low interest, capital from banks, like he said, that can provide you with insight on how to do better. Because if you're contacting a bank that usually deals with e-commerce businesses, they're gonna tell you, hey, this other company, this other competitor of yours or another brand in your space, we actually offer them, you know, the same advantage, the same perks, and we can advise you on how well they're doing, what they're using their money for. They'll be there for you to make sure you can actually make that flip, take that capital, make more money from it, and you know, obviously pay them back. So Juan will personally help you out, make sure you're applying to the right banks, raising you as much money as possible. I mean, what we've seen so far is anywhere from 20 to 50K, really, if you're
honestly
you have
more.
Like
You
have an okay business.
It really just depends on on revenue. Yeah, it really just depends on revenue. It could be literally, it could be more, because even when we first reached out to this specific partner, we had offers for 100K off the bat.
Yeah, we just
we didn't need 100K at that time, because we had already bootstrapped a lot of it ourselves. But yeah, it really just depends on revenue. It really just depends on revenue and like product you're selling, market. And the last thing to kind of wrap this up is you definitely got to be able. You want to get into the habit of reaching out, you know, like for funding, capital, cash, advance, or whatever, because you want to get into the habit of being able to sell yourself, sell your business, because in reality, it is a sell, right? Like usually when you're working with these banks, these lenders, they're going to ask you about your business, what you're looking to do with the money, where you're looking to go. And so usually a lot of the time, I'm selling them on the vision. I'm selling them on the market, how big the market is, how we've done so far, what we're looking to do with the money, what they can possibly make on that. Like, I'm literally giving them. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making these things up. I'm giving them facts. I'm doing my research beforehand, so I'm able to sell myself, sell the brand to them really well, because I have the numbers and the metrics that they're looking for and what they want to hear. Obviously, if you have a shitty product, shitty market, they're not gonna
if you're drop shipping and they see all your customers. If you're drop shipping and you don't have good customer service, you're not taking care. They know that your brand or your business is not gonna be around for long if you have horrible customer service. So all those things that you just mentioned there definitely do take a role. Like, if you can present the idea and they buy into it, that's what they're doing, right? Like JP Morgan. I read JP Morgan's biography, and he talks about, you know, what does it mean, credit, right? What is the definition of credit? When we think of credit, we think of credit bureaus, credit reports, Experian, Equifax. But the real term, before any of these bureaus existed, JP Morgan was literally the bank for America. So they put him on trial, actually, because he was getting too powerful. He was pretty much in charge of the whole economy. This is before they replaced JP Morgan with the Federal Reserve. But you know, they put him on trial, trying to kind of corner him, kind of like how they're doing with the big four, you know, Tim Cook, Google guys, Facebook. They're putting him on trial now. They put him on trial and said, hey, what is your definition of credit? Like, how do you determine who you're loaning money out to? And he says, look, credit is not about somebody who has money. It's about somebody who has good character. Credit means character. Because he says, I would loan $1 million out to someone who has $0 in their bank account, but has great character, rather than somebody who has that $1 million in their bank account and horrible character. Right? Because even if they have that money in the bank, as soon as you give them the money, if they have bad character, they're not going to come back. They're not going to pay it. But the person with great character will make sure that they'll go above and beyond, make sure you're paid on time, etc., etc. So that's what banks are really looking for. I mean, obviously now they have to take a look at your credit bureau, take a look at your credit profile, and Juan will also make some recommendations. I mean, we don't fix credit or repair credit or any of that, but we know people. So ideally what you're going to want to do, I forgot to mention, is go down to the link below. You're going to see schedule a free consultation call for e-commerce capital or e-commerce funding and whatnot. And then you're going to either hop on a call with Juan, or probably we'll have like a preliminary call and make sure you're serious. Get to know your goals, right? Speaking of that, get to know your goals, your market, what you're trying to do, why you need to raise money. And if it makes sense, then we'll go ahead and, you know, get you in touch with some of our partners, make some warm introductions, or just really get you set up to be able to get that money that you're looking for to take your business to the next level. I mean, it's honestly not complicated, but it could be complicated if you're trying to figure it out on your own. So we learn from others, obviously. So we're just trying to share that, pass it down. But it is gonna cost you a fee though. I'm just gonna tell you right now, it will cost you a fee. We don't know exactly what, probably like a percentage of whatever we help them raise or something like that. And it will still make sense at the end of the day. And more importantly, you could probably keep using that process over and over, tapping into the same partners, funding partners, all that capital. But yeah, with that being said, any last closing notes or?
That's it. That's it. Now it's just a matter of putting it, you know, going to work on it, right? Figuring out where you want to go with your business and making that decision. And
what you need the money for.
Yeah, you gotta have a plan. That's the one thing. You gotta have a plan. You can't just, nobody's gonna, I mean, people will give you the money, but if you don't know how to use it, you're gonna end up paying for money for no reason.
Exactly. So again, this is for people that already have a business that's producing some sort of revenue. Even if it's not much, you gotta have a business that's making some money, that's got some movement in it, that's got a little bit of traction, that you can invest that money into. Because we're not just trying to help you raise a bunch of capital that's gonna turn into bad debt that you're gonna spend on shoes and vacation or whatever, things that just don't make you any money at all. So with that being said, hit that link below. You'll see a link to schedule a call with us. Again, it'll probably either be with Juan or Mo, which is the VP of Enrollment here at the eCom Incubator. All right, peace. Deuces. Time to go eat.